Alright, here's a trickier part of the math involved in this. I'm going to do a little trig here. And so we have to deal with a lot of right triangle trig. The reason is because we have these things called vectors. Now that is a vector there. It's a length and it's at an angle here we call normally theta. And so there's two ways to think of this. You could think of yourself starting here and traveling directly along the vector to this point right there. Or, if you aren't able to go as the crow flies, you could travel along the x-axis here in distance of x, and then travel directly north y. And so there are a lot of cases where you have to figure out x or y, or you have to figure out r right here. Now this guy right here is called the magnitude. Alright, and so I'm going to write a couple of the relations that you're going to need to use. Here we go. Whoops. My computer is wigging out here a little bit. Whew. Here we go. Alright. So some of the relations that you're going to need to use, first of all, is the Pythagorean theorem. So that is x squared plus y squared equals r squared. Okay, and then some other things you need to know is that sine of theta is y over r. Alright, so hopefully you guys have somewhat of a background with these SOHCAHTOAs. Conversely, if you want to figure out theta, you can use sine inverse of y over r. Okay. Now these, if you took Algebra 2, these should have been in Algebra 2. And I'll say one more thing about this. If these things are totally foreign, you don't have to worry too much yet. You can talk to me when I get back. These things are going to be more critical in future chapters. And so for the first 3 or 4 chapters, we won't need to know these as much. But it's good to try to wrap your head around them now instead of later. So if you're feeling a little behind, don't worry. We will figure it out. Just try to follow along with us now. So for example, I have a right triangle here. And we're going to put theta in the corner, and 3 and 4. Now there's a few things that we could do here. Number 1, find r. So let's start with that. Now remember, r is this guy right here. That's the magnitude. So I'm going to put r there. And I'm going to use the Pythagorean theorem, because Pythagorean theorem relates the 3 sides of a triangle. Now, it's x squared plus y squared equals r squared. So we have to have 4 squared plus 3 squared equals r squared. Now when you do 4 squared and 3 squared, that would be 16 plus 9, that's 25, equals r squared. And if you square root, r is going to be 5. So there we have it. The magnitude, the hypotenuse there as they call it sometimes, the one that's across the 90-degree angle, is 5. Okay, now number 2, something that people might ask of you in this textbook is find theta. Alright, now that brings us back to this side, the right side, because if we need to find theta, if theta is alone here already. Now, we have all 3 sides. We have r, we have x, and we have y, so we get to choose. I'm just going to choose this one. No particular reason. Some times you don't have r. And if you look at this equation, you won't be able to use sine then or cosine. You'd have to use tangent. But let's just find theta using cosine inverse. So cosine inverse of x over r, that would, in this case, this is x and this is r. So it would be 4 over 5 equals theta. And so that is what you literally type into your calculator, cosine inverse of 4/5. And your degrees that you should get is 36.86989 ... So for degrees, we actually most of the time just round to the first decimal place. Because it is an angle and it's not relating to the lengths, and we're not too worried about sig figs right now. Okay, now the last thing here, number 3, that we would want to do, we're going to throw a little beta up here and say find beta. Now one other thing you really need to know about triangles, if you add the angles up, and there are 3 of them here, this box means 90, this we know is 36.9, and we don't know this, they should all equal 180 in the end. So 90 degrees plus the one we found, 36.9, plus beta should equal 180. So if we subtract those guys out, 180 minus 90 minus 36.9, we get beta equaling 53.1 degrees. Okay, now we're going to talk about example 2 here, kind of going the other way. So sometimes they give you a right triangle, and they give you the degrees, say 20 degrees, and the r, which is 10, and they want you to find x and y. So, in this case, we would want to use this side of our formula, because we have the angle. And so looking down here, let's just choose y first. So number 1, find y. Now we want to figure out using sine. And the reason is we have y, we have r and theta. We're trying to find y, and we have r and theta. So here, the equation was sine of theta. Now theta is 20 degrees. And it's y over r. R is 10. Clean that up. Now if I multiply by 10 on both sides, I have 10 sine of 20 degrees. I literally put that all in my calculator, 10 sine of 20. And rounding, I will get 3.4. Okay, now I would like you to pause the video and try that for 2, which is find x. You'll have to use not sine this time, but I want to see if you can pick out the other one. Alright, in this case, you'll be using cosine. So that was theta was 20, and that would be x over 10. If you multiply by 10, it would be 10 cosine of 20. So x is going to be 9.4-ish.